Several years ago, a company called LucasArts presented an idea for the Star Wars universe called Star Wars 1313, where you were going to go into the underbelly, into the crime world of Star Wars and skitter around and be a bounty hunter, and it just looked absolutely killer. And then, of course, that never happened. But what has happened is Ubisoft and its teams at Massive and Ubisoft Toronto and its various teams across the world have picked up that baton, and they have made us Star Wars Outlaws, which is out as I am recording this review. I got this a little bit early, but I had Fan Expo drop right in the middle of my ability to play this game. So I had been taking my time with the title. But one of the cool things that I have been doing with Star Wars Outlaws, I started it on the PlayStation 5, and that's primarily where most of my game time has been, but I also traveled with my ROG Ally X, and I was playing a ton of it on the Ally X, and it was really freaking cool in both cases. It was awesome to play it on a big screen, and honestly, this is a title that deserves as much screen real estate as you can offer it, because there is a tremendous amount of detail in the backgrounds and the environments and the characters and the droids skittering around, chirping away. But it still is really unbelievably cool to me. We live in this awesome kind of future state right now where we can play on a handheld PC and the fidelity is pretty solid. I was playing in low, but there's so much detail and smoke and lighting effects and everything, so it still looked really good. And I was getting 30 to 40 frames per second, and I was very impressed. And I was completely immersed whether I was playing this game in handheld mode or on the big screen. I gotta say, this game is a real treat. It is the game that I was most anticipating in 2024. At the beginning of the year, I like to put together the 20 plus things that I'm most excited for. And this was the game that I was so hot to jump into because it just brings together all kinds of things that I love. Obviously, I love the Star Wars universe, but I like playing open world experiences with lots of exploration. I like to kind of feel like I'm living and breathing in these environments, and Star Wars Outlaws does that. And it's also a distinctly different experience from the incredible Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and Star Wars Jedi Survivor, both of which I adore. This one, you play Kay Vess, who is a smuggler and a scoundrel and a thief, and she has no compunction about aligning with criminals, so you can do favors for the Crimson Dawn or the Hutts or the Pikes, and you can pit them against each other, and you can go on missions, and you get rewards from these different factions if you align yourself with them, and you'll get hunted if you betray them or if you trespass into their various territories on each of the different planets that you get to explore, which is really cool. And the same is also true with the Imps, the Imperials, and you'll see they have different stations, and you'll see stormtroopers are really pushing people around, and they're everywhere. They're scattered throughout the galaxy, and they're chasing down pirates, and they're chasing you if you sneak into an installation and steal some data or something like that. And so you're on the run in a variety of different ways, and it just feels pretty badass to be a character without force powers, without a lightsaber, and still threatened in so many different ways. And you have to use your wits, and you definitely have to use your stealth abilities, and depending on what sort of sector of gameplay you're in, you've got combat skills that you also have to employ as well. So oftentimes in this game you have to sneak into an installation, and one of the coolest ones is sneaking into Jabba's palace, and you try desperately not to be found because the bad guys will run over to an alarm and then all kinds of hell will rain down on you. But you do have some pretty cool offensive capabilities. Your blaster has the ability to power up and level up, and you'll get different types of shots with it, so it's very versatile. You'll get some rapid fire, you'll get some ion shots that will disable alarm systems or zap somebody and make them freeze. You also get this kind of power shot that allows you to blast through rocks and bad guys. The Gamorrean guards take a few of those power shots, and so you're zipping in between the different shot patterns that you have with your blaster. And you also have the capabilities of employing Nix, who is your companion, this cute little it's hard to describe. He's kind of like a koala bear fused with a lizard, and he's got these weird tentacle things. He reminds me a bit of Stitch from Lilo and Stitch, and he's got a feisty little attitude. He likes his snacks. They've got a really cool Monster Hunter kind of eating cinematic that you actually can control the way that each of the characters gobbles things up, and one of them, Kay, gets really spiced out and she starts sweating and everything starts to go really woozy with her. I like that sense of humor and that sort of character building that's happening there. And that connection between Kay and Nyx is not just for show. You can send Nyx off to go and steal things off of enemies. You can send Nyx off to open doors that are closed. If Nyx can get to somewhere that Kay can't, in a way, it's almost like employing the ball form of Samus Aran in a Metroid experience, because there is a lot of navigation and trying to figure out how to get through levels. And of course, you're unlocking doors and gates and energy fields and all kinds of stuff in this game. And the gameplay is a really fantastic mashup of zipping around on your speeder bike, which you can also customize with speed and enhanced maneuverability. So you're zipping around on your speeder bike on these open world environments, which are very, very large, where there's lots of cool details, lots of sprinkled in Easter eggs from all kinds of Star Wars stuff that you've seen before, which is really cool, which I won't spoil here. And so you'll traverse across the deserts of Tatooine and you'll see things that you recognize, you know? And I loved looking up into the horizon and seeing the twin suns and then the extra moons that you get during the night portion of this game, because it's got a great day and night cycle in here as well. And then scattered in amongst these different environments that you go to are these fortresses and bases and stuff, and so you're sneaking into there. So there's a stealth component, and then when all hell breaks loose, you get into the blaster battles and you're fighting different characters with all of those abilities, and you've got the ability to crouch and do some spin rolls and stuff out of the way, and if you're running really fast, you can slide into the battle. So there's quite a bit of flexibility with the momentum there, and of course there's a lot of exploration in all of these different areas. There's verticality, there's bases that are deep underground, so you're rappelling into them or climbing down into them, and then there are all kinds of different systems like fans that are shooting tons of air, so you have to be cautious about when you grapple across them, or they'll blast you into who knows where. And then you've got to pull off some stunts every once in a while on your speeder bike, and also you get into space battles with this cool spaceship that you steal at the beginning of the game. And you can augment your spaceship as well, augment the shield systems and the maneuverability of the spaceship as well, and you'll get into dogfights with TIE fighters and space pirates. And you're also collecting all kinds of resources out in space and amongst the landscape and inside of these bases and stuff that you can fuse together to allow you to get all of these power-ups. And then occasionally as well, you're able to pick up extra weapons and stuff from fallen enemies, grenade launchers and blaster rifles and sniper rifles and stuff like that. You don't get them for very long, and once they run out of ammunition, you basically throw them away. So you're really mostly focused on augmenting the toolkit that you have, although you also get different outfits with different weaves and different strengths, like the ability to carry more Bacta vials and things like that. And you're also meeting up with all of these different allies and contacts that give you an upgrade skill tree as well. And you have to meet a certain set of requirements, and then they'll give you some buffs and some boosts that help you to get further and further in the experience. Listen, this is a really deep game. It's a really, really big game. It definitely has some jank. It does feel like more time could have been spent on smoothing out animations. You will see the occasional, rock formation that's floating above some of the mountainside or something like that. Some of the enemy AI could be a little bit stronger for sure. And there are stealth missions where if you get found or caught, then you have to start the whole thing over again. Although there are some pretty good checkpoints along the way. And it's definitely not the best open world experience I've ever played, but it is unbelievably satisfying. And the thing about this game is that I think it's one to not to just sit down at the buffet of all of its different systems and just gorge on it and try to get through it as quickly as possible. This is one of those games where you want to walk around and explore and just listen to chatter. There's lots of places in this experience where you can lean against a wall or a balcony or something like that, or sit down and you can eavesdrop and you can hear this cool chatter that's happening, and you can witness all of this life that's all around you. My very favorite thing about this video game is that it feels like you're walking onto sets that you've seen, whether in the Star Wars films or the Star Wars shows. They're so rich. There's so many alien races and cool little widgets and gadgets and doodads. There's freaking arcade machines in kind of the Star Wars language that you can walk up to and play. You know what I'm saying? You can bet on the horse races that you saw in The Last Jedi and make some money that way. And of course, there's tons of side missions, and I've got so much more to play with this game. There's so much depth and so many cool little tangents, and you'll be going off and exploring and chattering with Jawas and all of these different characters being hunted by Gamorrean guards. And, I don't want to get into the spoilery stuff in here, but it's a very rich dive into lots of cool Star Wars lore. And I will say, like, exploring Tatooine and going through Mos Eisley and all of these different areas that you've seen in Tatooine before, we've never been able to see these worlds at this fidelity and have this much freedom in it. Ubisoft and the massive team, everybody that's involved here has done a really good job at crafting something that's absolutely great fan service for super fans that have loved Star Wars forever. Yes, there's a couple things that I definitely do wish about this title. It would have been cool, kind of like the Hogwarts Legacy last year, to be able to craft your own character and customize your own character. There's lots of outfits and things like that change the appearance, but it also makes you kind of wonder, why couldn't this have been a Boba Fett game or a Han Solo game, with this amount of freedom and this amount of fidelity? It certainly makes me think of the Solo film. It also made me think a little bit of the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth experience that I played earlier this year. There's definitely some Assassin's Creed kind of vibes in here. There's some Splinter Cell kind of vibes in here. It definitely made me think of Metal Gear Solid 5 and the mechanics of stealth in an open world setting, which were so cool in Metal Gear 5, and this doesn't get to that. But we didn't get to jump into space and fly around and then jump on speeder bikes and zip around like we can here. And also, the other thing that this isn't like Star Wars Auto, Star Wars Theft Auto or anything. You can't just jump into every speeder or land speeder or speeder bike that you see. You can't take every weapon. You can't sort of customize like crazy like you can in a Grand Theft Auto experience. And it would be fun to see this extrapolated. I certainly see this Snowdrop engine and the work that's gone into this game being something that Ubisoft and Lucasfilm Games could employ for future Star Wars adventures. And who knows what Ubisoft has got planned for the life of this title. Maybe there's going to be some really exciting, what-if scenarios from Star Wars lore. But it's a really robust engine, and there's a lot that could be employed. I mean, I would love to race around these beautiful worlds on the back of something like a Tauntaun, or you see the dewbacks and you see the banthas, and it would be great to just hop on those and not necessarily race around, but clamber around like that. But God, there's just been so much joy just finding all of these little cool pieces as I turn the corners. And I do like the characters. I like ND5, I like Kay, I like Nix, I like some of the other characters that they encounter, some of the scumbags and the villainy. The villain's pretty good, but certainly not of the scale of a Darth Maul or a Kylo Ren or some of the villains that we've got from Star Wars. Not Darth Vader. But pretty creepy, and I think the grounded quality of everything makes this feel pretty damn fresh. As sci-fi fantasy fueled as this is, it does feel different, and it also feels distinctly Star Wars. So I really enjoy this game. I can see people having issues and quibbles with it, and I've certainly been seeing some of the scores been floating around, some of the discourse around this game. But I really dig this. This is a game for me for sure. I'm going to give Star Wars Outlaws an 8.5 out of 10.